Hello there and welcome to a spooky Monday Halloween episode of GG Replay. GG Replay is, of course, your Monday, Wednesday, Friday show where we break down the latest in gaming news, hosted by us, the Goodnight Groofs, a place for games and a place for some flippin' goofs. I mean, listen, we're working on the slogan, but we're getting there. I didn't mention at the top of the show either, but it is Monday, October 25th, 2021. We're coming in hot in a late night episode for us, and I have the spooky pumpkin here. I'm Paul. Matt, how you doing today? How's the day going? And do you like my spooky pumpkin, Charles, back here?
I love the spooky pumpkin. Charles is a silly name. I almost feel like
perfect.
I almost feel like it's a reference to who's the guy who wrote Peanuts? Charles something.
Charles Schultz.
Yeah, it almost feels like that.
The Great Pumpkin.
Yeah,
It is a great pumpkin.
That's where I'm trying to go with
Charles.
this.
Yeah. I brought it around. We got a full circle. So we have a pretty exciting show for all of y'all out there. I did say spooky. It's not Halloween, obviously, but it is Hallow-week. It is the week leading up to Halloween, and by this time next week, Halloween will be over, dead, done for another year. So, we're going to be getting a little spooky all week and trying to enjoy that spooky season before we have All Saints Day and all the the saints come and, I don't know, banish the ghosts or whatever, and then Christmas begins. And Dia de los Muertos, exactly. So lots of exciting things to come.
American Thanksgiving. So let's
American Thanksgiving, which is really cool, and a very solemn Veterans or Remembrance Day, depending on where you're from. So a lot of stuff going on in November, but it's not scary. So we got to enjoy the scares and spooks while we still have them. All right, let's move right into this show. First off, I just want to remind everyone that if you come across any necessary corrections in today's episode, please send them to ggreplayshow@gmail.com or head down to the YouTube comments below so we can address them in the next episode. Matt, I went to check the mailbox for the reviews today. I opened it up and it's bursting full because the reviews are in, my friend. They are in, and there are a ton of games that got reviewed this weekend or in the last week here, and there are a ton of them. I missed a few, I think, on Friday, and so that's why we got the backlog when Mike and I were going. I always miss a couple when I do it on my own, and then you come in with all these ones. So let's talk about it. First off, we have Disciples Liberation. This is a strategy RPG, got a 75 on OpenCritic, very decent score. It's out now. It looks cool. I think the graphics look pretty rad, and I think the strategy elements look good. It seems to have a good consistent style, but not something I would play. Looks a little too finicky for me.
It looks like if Diablo were more of like a turn-based strategy type thing. Like it looks a lot like that.
Yep.
Not my thing. But it looks kind of neat. I mean, if you like Diablo and you like strategy tile-based combat type games, then I would go for it. I mean, it looks kind of neat.
Looks really cool. So something to keep in mind, but there you go. I think the Disciples is actually a series, so I think people are saying this is a good new one in the series or something. I've never heard of it at all, so there you go. There's my expertise. All right, let's move into something pretty different that looks pretty cool. Echo Generation. This is a puzzle adventure RPG, 77 on OpenCritic. It is out now. This is a day one on Game Pass, which is pretty cool.
Oh wow!
Because it's got and on PC and Xbox, and it's got a pretty cool design to it. It's kind of like I want to say like an all ages kind of game. It's got kind of like a blocky adventure thing where you're going through solving little puzzles, doing different scenes. There's, a lot of it's based in. I'm having trouble describing it because I couldn't get a good grasp on what the core gameplay loop was besides just kind of like roaming around and clicking stuff. Matt, do you have a better read on this than I do?
There is combat. I think it's I think there's turn-based combat in there, and there's like a somewhat of a card system. I think it's very minimal, but it is there. From what I understand, the combat isn't super balanced, so it just kind of, a lot of these smaller turn-based RPGs have unbalanced combat. I think that's often something that plagues these type of smaller budget turn-based games. But I love the retro vibes that this game gives off. I love the blocky art style. It's like Minecraft if they used like 10 times the amount of blocks to make a character, essentially.
Yeah.
And
it feels like the Mega Bloks version of Lego's Minecraft's Lego.
Yeah, it kind of does. But I like the way it looks. This is
Yeah.
sort of interesting. You said it's on Game Pass. If my Game Pass app was working, I might check it out.
Yeah, this seems like a cool thing to like play with the fam, or hang out with your nieces and nephews or kids and check this out. It looks like a kind of a fun thing to check out and get into. All right, let's move on to a roguelike here. Ever Tried got a 78 on OpenCritic. That is also out now. Yeah, just not at all something I would be interested in. Almost like one of those like mystery dungeon games where you like pop around to different blocks on like an isometric grid, and then you have to do like kind of turn-based fighting, but it's a roguelike. Just totally not my thing. But I don't know. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, not my thing either. I admire the pixel art, but it's not enough to get me to play the game. It's just but people love this kind of stuff. Just not me.
I'm sure this is gameplay for a lot of people, but like that they would love. But for me, not for me. And I'm getting into some more roguelites and roguelikes, but this is not the one. Although cool name, Ever Tried. I really like that. Points for the name.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about Tandem, A Tale of Shadows. This is a puzzle adventure. 79 on OpenCritic. We got some good 70s today. That is also out now. Wow. Another game that just does not look interesting to me. Hate to lead the show not being excited. It's kind of like a top-down puzzle platformer that also happens to have like 2D segments.
Yeah.
But the top-down is not like isometric or off the side. It is fully top-down. Reminiscent of, I feel like, some old school puzzle platformers that I couldn't remember now that they haven't really been making in a long time. Matt, I know you're more of a 3D platformer person. Does this seem like something you might get into?
It looks like a game that is trying to have this really cool identity, but doesn't actually have this really cool identity. I think it does some neat things with varying playstyles and changing up mechanics. Like you said, it switches between side-scrolling and top-down. And that's kind of cool, but I think the art style is also between the tone and the gameplay. The art style is also like, we're trying to do this really cool thing, but they don't actually quite do this really cool thing. It almost looks like it's trying to emulate some sort of older, like early 2010s Tim Burton sort of thing, maybe, but it's not quite there. I don't know. It's got like the characters have this really like glossy, plasticky look to them. It's kind of off-putting.
Agreed.
I think that this game, this is the kind of game you see and you're like, it could have potentially been good, but it's just like, it's close, but everything about it, everything is a little bit off.
I agree. Yeah, it's too smooth, too clean, in a way that doesn't seem to actually have any major identity to it. Doesn't work for me. But maybe it'll surprise. 79 OpenCritic, pretty good. Maybe they'll come up
better
with
than I would have expected after watching reviews.
Same. All right, moving on to Neptunia X Senran Kagura Ninja Wars. This is a JRPG. I want to say like an action JRPG, really, because I mean, it's definitely not like traditionally turn-based in its combat.
It's like a arena fighting type thing almost.
Yeah, like a brawler JRPG thing. It's very interesting. Got a 69 on OpenCritic. Is out tomorrow. Boy, oh boy, it looks fine. I would say the combat looks really cool. Not like insanely good or anything, but quite powerful, quite impactful. It looks, it looks like a good open world fighting game in like an anime style, which I think is pretty cool. There aren't like a ton of those. I think a lot of that's like often turn based or in like certain battles. And I don't know, looks good to me. But also it looks like your typical JRPG convoluted story full of like big text cards. It's not something I'll probably play, but it looks neat.
A lot of boobs, a lot of big boobs.
Yeah, it is a JRPG after all, and I'll see.
But it's kind of all over in this one, and I feel like the score of 69 is appropriate, and that's all I have to say about this.
Nice. That's a good joke. I didn't even think about that. All right, no one make any more reviews of that game. Keep the OpenCritic score right where it is.
Or just, if you are, score at 69.
And moving into something I'm very excited for, Guardians of the Galaxy action RPG. It's got an 82 on OpenCritic, which I'm very excited to see. It's out tomorrow. Very, very excited. Gameplay looks awesome. Quill looks cool. It's cool the way you can, update and change. I wasn't expecting so many RPG mechanics where you could like change his loadout and how powerful his like abilities and things are. That's really cool. Again, I think the focus on like other Guardians and like the ability to the ability to use their specials and stuff isn't as like insane as I thought it would be, which is good because I didn't want it to be too like over the top. I know you're not controlling different characters, but I didn't want it to be too BioWare-y where I have to like
Right.
worry too much about who's coming in to help me and stuff. And it seems like you just kind of press one button and they come in and do a special and that's on cooldown, right? That's fine. But overall, yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. The story looks just as good as I thought it'd be. And on top of that, they have like cool cosmetics and stuff, and all of it is purchasable in game without microtransactions. So really, really cool. Matt, I know you were pleasantly surprised, I think, a little bit by some of the last few things we saw from this game. After looking at the reviews and everything, what's your take on this? Is this something you might pick up or try at some point?
Well, it's funny because if this were not a Guardians of the Galaxy game, I would be way more interested.
But who cares?
Look, like, everyone, if you listen to this podcast by now, you know I'm not an MCU guy. Okay. And particularly not Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think the game actually looks solid. I think that it's kind of disappointing for me because the gameplay looks really good. I like that choices are a thing, like how you approach the different scenarios actually matters and can be totally different. I love that, but I don't care about Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm not going to play this game. But
maybe if you play the game, the characters will you'll love them from the game and they'll become their own thing for you.
Maybe it's possible. Maybe. I don't think I'm going to give this game a shot. But if I have a bunch of friends who are playing it and say that they really love it, maybe. 82 is pretty good and the game looks great. Just I'm personally not into Guardians.
Yeah. I didn't see anything about how long the game is, like how much content there is, but I do worry about that a little bit. I mean, it looks really good, but also it's like a full price $60 game, and I'm kind of like, I kind of want to wait it out a little bit and see what pricing is like on sales. I think this is going to be something that's going to go on a lot of good sales within the next year.
This is the kind of game that might have a Black Friday sale. Yeah. Like, even though it's just a month away.
Yeah, I think it's really possible. Even if it's 10-15%, that might be enough to sway me, but probably not. I'll probably wait till this is like 50% off or something at some point, or 40% off. But it looks like a lot of fun. I love the MCU. I don't like Guardians that much. It's not a super pillar for me of the MCU. But this as a standalone thing just looks like a cool game, and the characters seem to have enough of a camaraderie and a good rapport that I'll probably give it a go at some point down the line. All right. Let's talk about our final game here, something that also is a day one on Game Pass. So I'll definitely give it a shot, but I don't know if it's going to grab my attention. Age of Empires 4, it is a real-time strategy game, RTS. We haven't heard that one in a while because there aren't a lot of RTSs. In fact, it's kind of a dead genre.
Yeah.
But hey, here comes AoE 4, getting an 85 on OpenCritic. The game is it out tomorrow? Really? I thought it was out a little bit later, November. Am I crazy?
I think it's out tomorrow. Let me double check that for you right now.
Double check that.
Oh, Friday. So not tomorrow.
There we go.
Out Friday.
No worries. I just thought it was like a little bit later because I would have probably thought I was going to play it tomorrow. But yeah, looks really cool. Looks good. From what I saw from reviews, I don't know if you saw some of the reviews I saw, Matt, but I'll say I consistently saw from a few different reviews people saying, "Hey, yeah, it's good," and like no one else is making an RTS, so sure, here's a good score, but AoE 2 Definitive Edition exists, and AoE 3 Definitive Edition exists, and there's, it does not really doing anything. It's like reinventing the wheel of Age of Empires. So unless you're like an Age of Empires super fan and you wanted a few of like the cool things they added, like I heard some cool stuff about the Mongols and some of the new armies, you're kind of just getting more of the same Age of Empires, which again, when those other ones exist, I mean, the graphics of it, they look good, of course, but do they look really much better than any other games that are out right now? I mean, does it look really like 2021? I don't think so. Matt, is this something that you would pick up or play? Or if you did have PC Game Pass, would you like log in, give it a shot? Or, what's your history with AoE?
I actually don't like the graphics. I think they look too soft, too curved, and a little too cartoony. And I think that all combines together to make it look kind of cheap. I think the biggest problem for me with AoE 4 is that AoE 2 exists.
Yeah.
It's such a good RTS. I mean, it is peak of the genre. I love AoE 2. Something about AoE 4 just looks rough to me. It's missing that classic art style. AoE 2 still holds up. Like, it was like this weird mix between realistic and almost like sketch art, like detailed drawings instead of just like cartoony. And so something about that really holds up. And to me, AoE 2 looks better than AoE 4.
Agreed. Totally agree. I think it has a more consistent design and style that it's going for. And yeah, I think this might just remind me to go play some AoE 2 and try that out again. And we'll see how that goes.
It's so
I
good.
think that's also available on
AoE
Game Pass.
2.
So there's a lot of stuff available here, especially again when they put the money and time into definitive editions and things to bring these up to like the modern era. What do you need a new one for unless you're going to go crazy with it, Total War style? You know, get those like crazy upgraded textures and things. But I digress. All right, let's get into some new stuff. Speaking of upgraded textures, Halo Infinite campaign had a big overview today. We got a 7-minute video from Microsoft, and boy, oh boy, does it look better. As we all remember, Craig, our famous brute that became memed heavily by looking like the worst thing the 2020 could ever bring upon us, and that was a year when a global pandemic happened. We now see he's been fixed a little bit. His textures are much better. He's grown a beard. You know, he's spent some time working on himself, and now he's got a little pandemic beard coming out here. Looks gorgeous. Overall, the game looks great in general. Matt, I'll kick it to you to hear what you are thinking about this game, just from for initial impressions from seeing this. But I think this looks awesome.
Yeah, I feel like I'm being negative on this episode.
That's okay.
I love the Halo 1, 2, and 3 campaigns. I find myself just not caring about this one at all.
Yeah.
Maybe the co-op. Like, I think it could be fun in co-op. I just don't care at all about single player. I'm very uninterested in the story, but it does look like there's a lot of potential sandboxy type fun in co-op with your friends. Like with the big open spaces, with the vehicles, all that kind of stuff. It looks like it, and the grappling hook now.
The grappling hook is like 90% of what I like about this whole trailer.
It looks like it could be really fun in that regard. I always felt like some Halo levels were already pretty big. It looks like that's the entire direction of this campaign. And what I found was weird. I like that there's like different upgrades and stuff like that. What I found was weird. It looks like there's like Far Cry style bases that you take over, where you actually have like captains and stuff that you have to take out. It was very like Far Cry or Assassin's Creed,
or something, maybe.
And I thought that was a little weird. It just felt very out of place in a Halo game. But it looks that sort of thing looks fun with friends. I have no interest in doing that in a single player setting with Halo. Far Cry, I'll do that. Assassin's Creed, I'll do that. Halo, it feels weird to me.
Loot, but the loot, Matt.
Sure, I guess loot.
I don't know. I think it looks awesome. I was pleasantly surprised. The grappling hook stuff. My main thing that I keep going in the back of my head here is Breath of the Wild. I really feel like they're trying to push this thing with Infinite and this whole thing where, they really went, hey, you see this outpost, you can take this out any way you want. He rocket launchers a tower, and then he like grabs one of those explodey cubes with his grappling hook and tosses it at the tower. That explodes. You take out a Banshee, then you like grapple onto another Banshee midair and jump into the Banshee. How janky will this be? Even if it's like half the time it works, that is amazing. Honestly, like I love the creativity being pushed a lot here. So the actual gameplay and the levels seem really, really cool. And obviously multiplayer, this is fun too, but multiplayer has a focus on like kill, kill, kill. And I think playing even by myself solo campaign, I might get that same feeling that you get from Breath of the Wild, where you just have to figure out things in a really creative way, and you can do them any way. Well, you don't have to. You can do them any way you want. And I'd like to hope that they really aren't just blowing smoke here, and that's actually going to be something they focus on. So yeah, we'll see. Also, campaign much cooler than I thought it was. Just from what I saw, I didn't like 4 or 5. 1 to 3, of course, was great. Reach was great, but this looks good. I like. It just seems like a generic campaign, but it looks fun. It's mostly 117, Master Chief, but also we have a new AI, the Weapon. She seems pretty funny, like a good comic relief to kind of make it feel a little bit like Cortana's got this kind of sassy thing that she's got going on, but overall it still feels kind of serious and dour a bit, and I feel like we're pulling it out to be a little more broad with like the humor from this other AI and like the human dude that like John's hanging out with a bunch. And so I think there's a good chemistry there between the group. And like having to bring Master Chief out, and I feel like he's got this whole kind of like I'm getting too old for this shit like vibe here, and I like it. I like it a lot. So I myself I will play this campaign. It's day one Game Pass as a Game Pass player, so obviously I will play it. But Matt, one last question before we move on, just really quick. Do you? Sorry, I'll let you make a point too that you wanted to make. But do you think that this is worth $60 when the multiplayer is free? Obviously, I know your answer. I think it really depends. I'm 50-50, but is that something that you think is a good move from them here?
I agree. It remains to be seen. I don't think it's out of the question. I just think it makes more sense to get it on Game Pass. You know, even if you're just subbing for the month or whatever. But
unless this is like some kind of Breath of the Wild thing where you can get endless joy out of like going back and redoing stuff in crazy ways, then that might be worth buying on your own, right?
Yeah, I think it remains to be seen. I'm very curious to see what the critics have to say about this.
Yeah.
Oh, the one thing I wanted to say was I was listening to the Halo 3 soundtrack on Saturday.
So good.
Honestly, just not even one of the best video game soundtracks of all time, but just one of the greatest like media soundtracks ever.
So good. So good.
And what it made me think of was, do you remember like the massive and epic ad campaigns for like Halo 2 and Halo 3? I miss that so much. Those were so good. Those were probably some of the greatest, if not the greatest, video game ad campaigns ever. They were so good.
It was before video game ad campaigns really got good and cinematic, but then now we're in this period where it's like, but it was also like we're in this period where they kind of stopped doing that, and that was just like this own thing that existed in that time.
Yeah.
Really, really cool though. I remember being a little disappointed by 3 because they built up this whole war with the brutes, and then when we actually played 3, it was just more of the flood and less of the brutes, and that was kind of disappointing. But overall, I think my hype for Halo 3 was more hype than for almost any other game in my life.
It was high levels.
Those campaigns were those ad campaigns were insane. So really, really cool stuff on that.
The slow motion like
through the little character models they had. Yeah.
Oh my god, just so
really, really cool. All right, let's move on. Talking about God of War, we already said last week God of War is being ported to PC, which is really, really excited. Now we know the studio that's doing it. It's Jetpack Interactive. This is a very small studio, mainly known for working on low-profile ports. As Matt wrote here, if you look into it at all here, speaking of the ports, they're mostly bad NBA Live games. They also did a little bit of work on, I think, the Dark Souls remake, but they weren't like the main studio, of course, or anything. And they also are going to lend some development, work to God of War Ragnarok. But again, it's auxiliary work, right? So, Matt, does this make you a little nervous for God of War being ported by PC? So I know, like, Santa Monica Studios is still going to oversee the project. So I mean, hopefully everything's going to be up to their exacting standards. I would have to imagine it would, but still, I'm a little nervous.
I don't know. I think porting a game to PC, I mean, it's not, I'm not going to say it's easy because there are bad PC ports. We have seen those. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I trust that Sony's not going to just go with any Joe Schmo development team that they can find to port one of their biggest games of the last decade. Like, they're going to go with a team that they know is going to at least do it pretty well. And with Santa, I feel like Santa Monica, I feel like they're not just overseeing it, but they're probably micromanaging the shit out of this.
Yeah, project managing a lot of this stuff, I would imagine.
So I'm not nervous. I mean, Jetpack clearly doesn't have the greatest portfolio, but I would say I trust that Sony made the right decision regarding one of their biggest games.
I agree. And also, won't dwell on this. We got to move on. But I will say Nixxes, it's not Nixxes, which is interesting. So we still don't really know what Nixxes is working on. Could it be Ghost of Tsushima PC port? Could it be a Bloodborne PC port that everyone's losing their mind over maybe happening? We'll have to see. But cool to know that they're the ones not doing this. So we still don't really know 100% what they're doing. All right, moving on, talking about Activision Blizzard. Oh, feels like we're always talking about these guys. This week, a little bit of a change. They did obviously say recently after Jesse McCree, the person was, left the company, parted ways with the company. They were going to change the name of Jesse McCree, the character in Overwatch. That has now happened. The name is now Cole Cassidy. And I guess they had a pretty interesting storyline just because initially I think there was pretty big hints in Overwatch that McCree's real name wasn't McCree, that he was using an alias of some kind. That predates this change. And then, now it's kind of coming out that his real name is Cole Cassidy. I think that's a cool name. It's very mixed. A lot of people seem to think that this was not the best name, but I don't know. I like it. The character was obviously originally named after Jesse McCree. There's, recent work harassment scandals. He's out. Names are out. In addition, WoW had to erase McCree and a bunch of other areas and things named after this fella. I think they're learning their lesson about naming things after people. And in addition, Blizzard's offering every player a free name change for their Battle.net ID right now to mark the occasion. Because they said, hey, if we can change our names and make a change, maybe you might want to, make a little change and change your name, because maybe I think they're kind of going like, maybe your name isn't something of a foreign defense, or maybe it's offensive, maybe it references McCree. So I guess maybe they're hoping that'll change. I think there might be a lot of people changing their name to McCree. We'll have to see how that goes. Matt, what do you think of? First off, what do you think of Cole Cassidy, and what do you think of the name change in general? I personally have no issues with any of it, but what's your take?
Cole Cassidy's a fine outlaw cowboy type name. I mean, cool. It's fine. I mean,
I like it more than Jesse McCree, quite personally. Like, if you take away the mental connection I have from having heard the name so much.
I agree. I think it's the Cassidy part. I mean, obviously there's like the Butch Cassidy.
Yeah.
That whole thing is, that reference gives you like those sort of outlaw thoughts as it is. So yeah, I mean, to me, it sort of sounds, if Jesse McCree was never this character's name, then Cole Cassidy would have sounded fine and made sense from the start.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those things where people just still call the character McCree because they have been calling him that for years.
Yeah, it'll take some time.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's hard to, I'm trying to think of another scenario where a game like this big has had a character name change, and I don't know if that's ever happened like this before.
I don't know either. Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think eventually it'll be adopted. Maybe going into Overwatch 2, especially when there's a new group of players coming in and stuff like that. But I also feel like it's going to end up being one of those. So this is a deep cut, but in World of Warcraft, there's an early dungeon called the Dead Mines. And on some servers, people called it DM. That was the shorthand for it. But on other servers back in the day, they called it VC. VC stands for Van Cleef, who's the final boss. And they called it VC because DM referred to another dungeon later in the game called Dire Maul. And so when WoW Classic came out, you had groups of people arguing on the same server. It's called DM. No, it's called VC. And people are like, what? It was never called VC. It was never called DM. Because they played on these servers that had their own names for it. And so I feel like it's going to be one of those things where old Overwatch players will call him McCree and new Overwatch players will call him Cassidy. And it's just going to be a scenario like that.
Yeah. That makes sense. I think over time, Mike said this in our Discord chat, I think after like maybe 4 to 5 years, I think Overwatch isn't going anywhere right now, possibly. I think in 4 to 5 years, it'll exist in some form. And in that scenario, people will probably start calling him Cassidy more consistently. But we'll have to see. Also, if the voice lines are good, Matt Mercer comes and does a good job with everything, it probably might change that up a little bit. So have to see. Hopefully they give him some special attention in Overwatch 2, if and when that ever comes out. Maybe that'll kind of also bridge the gap. All right, speaking of giving some special attention to writing, we now know the lead writer for Wolverine PS5 game, and it is Walt D. Williams, who was the lead writer from Spec Ops, The Line, and also wrote the campaign for Star Wars Battlefront 2, which, of course, the campaign was not the thing that was the most hated about Star Wars Battlefront 2, but, wasn't necessarily a standing O from the story crowd. Matt, does this make you a little nervous for Wolverine PS5? I don't know a lot about Spec Ops The Line, so I looked a little bit into this, and it seems like it's a pretty grueling, dark, decent story, but also some people think it was kind of not great. Some people, I don't know enough about it. Does this have any bearing for you? Do you care either way about most of this stuff?
I mean, I think it's good. The Spec Ops storyline is well regarded. It's beloved. Like, people talk about this today.
Yeah.
I don't really have concerns about him having written Star Wars Battlefront 2 because I imagine there were outside voices and things he probably had to do outside of his control when working with EA for a story. So I think that's a little bit different. I think he probably had more freedom with Spec Ops to create a good story. Although I do believe that was an adaptation of some sort. I'm not sure what it was adapted from.
I think it was an expanded universe thing of some kind, yeah.
Yeah, so something along those lines existed prior. But like I said, it's a very well-regarded game, especially being, like you said, dark tones back when not a lot of games were yet. And it was one of those earlier games that had a really good story when many games still didn't have great stories. Yep. So I think that this is a good thing. I mean, I'm sure that this guy's grown as a writer since that time as well. So this is probably a good thing. I mean, there are going to be other writers too. It's not just him. So we all know Insomniac has good writers already. So yeah, I think this is good news.
Yeah, me too. I trust Insomniac as a developer for hiring someone who's good. Obviously, has a good pedigree as well. So I'm hoping this will be great. I'm sure they've shown positive stuff from most of their games. It's a hit or miss. Ratchet and Clank, I think, had some positives and some negatives in the last release. Miles Morales, we talked about recently on Game Groofs. It had some good and some bad story elements. Spider-Man, regarded as pretty well, but regarded as pretty good. But there's also people who kind of think, it had some trifling issues. So I think we'll have to see. But I do have confidence that the Spec Ops story writer will do a good job, Mr. Williams over here.
I do think it's interesting, real quick, that this guy's really only worked on like adaptations with Spec Ops, Star Wars, and now Wolverine. So that's clearly like his thing, and the industry clearly thinks he's good at that. So yeah, this is promising, I think. Someone
who's faithful to adapting good stories. So really, really cool. And moving on to our final story of the day. Next, just a reminder, the next PlayStation State of Play is set for October 27th. So that's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Nothing too crazy. We're getting some updates on upcoming third-party games for PS4 and PS5. And it'll be about 20 minutes or so. So pretty cool to check out that. We will probably be talking about that on Wednesday or Friday, depending on probably actually Wednesday we'll probably be talking about that because it's our recording setup now. So pretty exciting. Matt, anything crazy you expect out of that, or just, some solid updates? Any surprises you think we might get?
I don't know. I'm very curious. It's supposed to be only third-party games, gonna run about 20 minutes, so I don't know how much you can pack in there. I don't know if it's gonna be like a big focus. You can kind of go
trailer after trailer, like thing after thing after thing, right?
Yeah, you could do that, or it could be like a focus on one thing for like 8 minutes and then like 12 minutes of something else. I don't know. I know I saw a lot of people hoping for Hogwarts Legacy. I wouldn't bank on it. I'm thinking we're going to see that later in the year, maybe in December at the Game Awards. So I wouldn't bank on that, but that would be an awesome surprise.
Be very, very cool. All right. Well, that about does it for today's GG Replay. But before we head home, I just want to remind you, head home, we're both home. But before you head back to the world of reality, I just want to remind you that if you enjoyed GG Replay and all of our content on goodnightgroofs.com, like our Game Groofs podcast and the blog, and you're feeling generous, we do have a Patreon at patreon.com/goodnightgroofs, where you can see any of our 3 current support tiers, and maybe one of them might interest you. The $3 plus tier will get you early access to our weekly podcast, Game Groofs. Normally it comes out on a Sunday, but you can get it on a Friday, cruising into the weekend. Always fun to do that. Also, don't forget, Game Groofs did come out yesterday, so if you haven't listened to that yet, definitely go and check it out. It was a very good episode. Josh wasn't there, so of course, incredible. Just kidding.
First class episode.
Yeah, but we probably stayed on topic a little bit more than we normally do with between me and Josh just taking us off the rails. All right. Also, reminder that this show exists in an audio-only format as well. So if you are watching this on YouTube and you just want to listen to our voices, we do exist in audio. But also, if you're already listening to this on audio podcast app, fantastic. If you could just take a couple seconds and give us a 5-star review or a thumbs up or a like or whatever it is on your podcast app, it would mean the world to us. It's super helpful and it helps us in the algorithm. So really, really appreciate that. We'll shout you out if we get a good one or a nice review. Always appreciate that. Matt, do you have anything else to say before we head out of here for this wonderful Monday starting the week with Charles over here?
I have 2 quick things. One, I like that at the end of show you mentioned the audio, like it's the other option. Our biggest audience is actually audio, so audio listeners, it's also on YouTube.
Yeah, I know. Well, you had that in the notes for the longest time. I never paid attention to the notes very often for the end here, but I've decided to switch back to paying them a little more attention. But yeah, I noticed that too. I was thinking like, hey, by the way, we're on a video if you want to know. So here we are. You can see our faces. You can see my great pumpkin behind me, which is fantastic. So definitely worth a check out. Give us a little like on YouTube too, or a comment. We'll definitely, like I said, read out or just give a shout out to people who comment because we haven't got a lot yet. So it's nice to see.
And then my closing thought is, what do you think would happen if the real Jesse McCree changed his name to Cole Cassidy?
Oh my God. That's actually hilarious. I like it's awful because the dude obviously has some issues here, but I might start a change.org petition. All right. Be on the lookout for that. Goodnightgroofs.com. That is going to be it for today's episode. For Monday, October 25th, 2021, we'll be back on Wednesday, getting ever closer to the spookiest day of the year. Unless you, I don't know, unless you owe some money to the government, then it's probably tax cutoff day. All right. Good night, Groofs.